Hello fellow cinephiles, 90s Film Guru here, thanks for joining me today. So today I'll be reviewing the classic comedy from the 90s, Clueless. This came out in 1995 and was written and directed by Amy Heckerling and was loosely based on the 1800s Jane Austen novel, Emma. It differs from the novel a little bit as the character changes from being Emma to Cher, and it kind of is more about that character and doesn't kind of completely follow the book, but is inspired a lot by it. It stars Alicia Silverstone, Stacey Dash, Donald Faison, Paul Rudd, Brittany Murphy, and a variety of others. Cher is ultimately a rich high school student who ultimately is trying to navigate adolescence and the problems that come along with that. And it's also about her playing matchmaker a lot of the time. Meets a new student, Ty, played by Brittany Murphy, and ultimately sort of helps her become popular, and it sort of turns on her. While she's playing matchmaker, she finds herself ultimately, while she's playing matchmaker, she ultimately discovers her own feelings for someone else and how she navigates that. She's a very interesting, colourful character and lives in a unique and interesting world that is really a time capsule of the 90s. And it's about her navigating the things that transpire in it while trying to be sort of a bit better person. In a lot of ways, this reminded me of the Buffy movie, in not the similar films, but just in the arc of the particular main character. In the Buffy film, you've got Buffy who starts off much like Cher, sort of a bit self-absorbed and not really considering and thinking about the world, and due to the circumstances that unfold in the film, she ultimately has this really great arc where she learns and grows and becomes a really great character by the end. And Clueless is kind of similar in that regard, in that Cher starts as sort of a bit self-absorbed, and then she slowly changes and evolves as the film goes along due to certain circumstances that arise throughout the movie. So yes, very different films, but it's just the arcs that I like. I kind of like that, where you have a little tiny arc in movies like this, where the character goes from one place to another, and I like that. From what the research I could do, ultimately Amy Heckerling was sort of read Emma in college and just really liked the positivity of the main character, Emma, and thought it would be kind of interesting to take that character and modernise it and put it in a modern world and what that would look like. And this is ultimately what she came up with. For her research, she ultimately went to more extremes, where she sat in on some of the Beverly Hills high school classes and sort of started to listen to the way that the kids and girls talked to each other and interacted with each other and the world itself. And she drew a lot from that and put it into the script, and you can really tell that she's done a research in that regard. Like I mentioned, this is a time capsule. This really feels like something from the 90s in its clothing, its dialogue, but there's sort of something sort of fresh about it as well. There's something that sort of transcends this sort of period that when it came out. And I think it's due to these sort of characters that we see and the dialogue that's used. Like, the characters themselves are a bit self-absorbed, but they're still very likable. Especially Cher, and you like her character, and you like the friendship she has with Stacey Dash's character, and ultimately how she tries to help Ty, trying to help the Brittany Murphy character fit in, and feels like it's a project, but she also learns as the Ty character learns as well. She's just a really fascinating character, and I really love what she does in this film, and this really made her a star. The studio didn't really want Alicia Silverstone to begin with. They had all these other names and these other actresses that they sort of auditioned would rather have. Alicia Witt, Kerry Russell, Gwyneth Paltrow, and even Angelina Jolie. But it was Amy Heckerling who really fought for Silverstone after seeing her in the Aerosmith video Crying. And that's kind of how Alicia Silverstone kind of got known and became popular. Yes, she had a slew of movies and things she was doing, but it wasn't really until she did the music videos that people started to take notice of her, and they sort of started to make her star slowly begin to grow. And ultimately this film was what propelled her forward and made her a huge star. And I just thought that was kind of interesting how Amy fought for her, and it was the first choice that she wanted to go with, and then she did, and she got the person that she wanted, and I like that. You even had like Paul Rudd's in it, and before him, they had Ben Affleck and Zach Braff, who were sort of auditioning for that role. But I'm glad I went to Paul Rudd, because I just thought Paul Rudd's kind of this cool and interesting and likable person, and that he oozes that out and when he's playing particular characters, and I think that's what this character needed. He needed to be smart and have really good banter with Alicia Silverstone's character, but also become a character that sort of grows himself and maintains a likability throughout the film no matter what happens. Like I mentioned, there are many great performances in the film, you know, like I think Brittany Murphy's really great. Like, it's sort of one of her early films, and it was a film that people sort of took notice a little bit, but it wasn't until later in her career that she sort of shone and changed and evolved into the actress that we know. And I just think this was a springboard for her, and I think she's really cool as this sort of naive young girl who comes into a new environment, doesn't know anybody, doesn't know the way the world works, and how she's taken in under Cher's wing and shown the world, and they help each other, and I really like that. Richard Paul Rudd I thought was really good. Donald Faison and Stacey Dash, I kind of like their relationship. They're sort of against each other, but they sort of love each other. It's an interesting relationship, and I like that in the film as well. But really the standout here is Alicia Silverstone. She's the captain of the ship. She steers it in the direction it should go. She's the character we first meet. She's the one telling the story through a voiceover. And we sort of connect to her. She's likable, but naive and a bit self-absorbed, but in a nice and interesting, but in a good way. And I just think she's fantastic in the film. You can really see why she slowly became a star. She didn't only had a small stint of being a star in the 90s and then disappeared for a little while and has reappeared doing a variety of other films most recently. But it's just something about her 90s work I like the most, with this and Crush and even Batman and Robin, which is terrible, but I kind of don't mind her in that. Excess Baggage, True Crime, movies like this I think were really cool for her, and she did really well. But this is the one that really stands out, I think, for her and for us as audience members. Like, we really, when we think of her, this is the film that comes to mind. I love the costume design is really cool. I like the location it's set in. I like that we get to see a bit more of the town than we usually would, and I think that's really cool. And I just think it's just a really well-made and interesting film that really draws you in, and you connect to the characters in a way you didn't expect. And Cher is such a fascinating character to watch throughout the film, and her interactions in the world and the people around her, and the friendships and bonds that she forms throughout the movie. And how she seems sort of ditzy, but she's not really. She's smarter than she's a lot smarter than people give her credit for, and you see that through the way she's matchmaking, the way she sort of, you know, like her grades are low, so she does things to get them, to teachers to change the grades, and I kind of think that's interesting for her. And like I mentioned, she has a really good arc like Buffy does. It was a very positive, they had very positive reviews when it came out, and it's become not just a cult classic, but a modern classic of the 90s that a lot of people really enjoy and go back to. And it's talked about, and even the fashions return to, you know, with certain things that are worn. And it just feels like we're being transported back to a time that was very different to what we live in now, and I kind of really love that. Fun fact, this film was actually originally going to be a TV pilot, and Amy Ackling was going to do it, but then she decided that a movie might be a bit better, and she couldn't really get the pilot TV show off the ground, so she decided to do the film. But it's kind of funny and interesting that after the movie did so well, they made a TV show. They replaced Alicia Silverstone with another actress, and there was another actor that was replaced as well, Paul Rudd's character, I think. But everyone else came back, and it's sort of an extension of the film. But I just thought that was interesting, that its original concept was a TV show that turned into a movie, then to actually turn into a TV show once again. I think it was a short-lived series. I don't know if I loved it. I thought it was clever, but I didn't think it was as good as the film, and that's probably why it didn't last as long as it could have. I love the music. There's just so much to enjoy and like about this film. And I think there is a little bit of depth, there's a lot of humour to it, and it's just sort of a real depiction of an environment that's kind of different for a lot of us. If you don't grow up rich or don't grow up in an environment that, or aren't American, you don't always have that experience or are aware of that experience. And movies like this can show us that. It can be our portal into a world we're unfamiliar with. and I think this film really captures that in a wonderful way. And it's definitely one of Alicia Silverstone's best films and best performances. And it's a film I go back to time and time again, but it's kind of interesting when I leave it for a bit before I rewatch it. I draw so much more out of it. The way I look at movies now is completely different to when I first saw this film or saw this film a few years ago, that I just look at it in a completely different way. And I think at times this film is a satire, sort of making fun of that world and environment, and does it in such a great way. Amy Eckling is really did a wonderful job with this, had a real voice, and crafted a really engaging, fun, and somewhat deep film in the smallest minimal ways. It's not a drama, but there are little nuggets and little bits and pieces through it that just feel, little bits and pieces that are weaving through it, that kind of has this sort of a bit of heart and a bit of dramatic element to it. And yeah, this is a really great film. If you haven't seen it, I do highly recommend it. I'd be surprised if no one has seen it. And just let me know in the comments what you think of this film. Anyway, that's all from me today. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, please subscribe down the bottom. Follow me on Letterboxd and Facebook. Otherwise, until next time, enjoy the movies.